Hare Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna.
Hare Krishna, everybody. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Guru and Guru Maharaj. I think Devi Shakti Mataji is not there, I think, right? Would like to
I
read?
messaged her, Prabhuji. So I think so she could not join today. So if anybody are interested, they can read. Otherwise, I'll read, Prabhuji.
Yeah. Anybody else would like to read the section today?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, I can read. Let me open it.
Sure, Prabhu. I'll share my screen. You can start with the prayers in the meantime, Prabhuji.
Just give me a minute, Prabhu.
Otherwise, I can start the prayers and you can do it also.
Prabhuji, if you click on that link, you can just see. Otherwise,
yeah, you can see my screen.
Yeah, we can see, Prabhuji.
I'm just checking which section I need to read. Just give me a minute, Prabhu.
40th to
Let me
52nd.
let me start the prayer. So, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskritya Naram Jeva Narottama Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayat Udirite Nashprayashta Bhajrishu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavate Nashtake. Prabhuji, I'll refer your sharing screen.
Sure, Prabhuji.
We need to start from text 40, correct, Prabhuji?
Correct, Prabhuji.
Okay, Prabhuji. So text 40, the glorious Brahma next evolved from his slot, the ghost, and Prabhuji, I mean it's very small for me. So let me open that screen. It's very difficult to read. Just give me a minute.
Yeah, sure, bro.
Just give me. Yeah, the glorious Brahma next evolved from his sloth at the ghost and faints, but he closes his eyes when he saw them stand naked with their hair scattered. The text 41. The ghost and hoblog, hobgoblins took possessions of the body thrown off in the form of yawning by Brahma, the creator of the living entities. This is also known as the sleep which causes drooling. The hobgoblins and ghosts attack men who are impure, and their attack is spoken of as insanity. Text 42. Recognizing himself to be full of desire and energy, the worshipful Brahma, the creator of the living entity, evolved from his own invisible form from his navel, the host of the Sandhya and Pitas. Text 43. The Pittas themselves took possessions of the invisible body, the source of their existence. It is through the medium of this invisible body that those well versed in the rituals offers oblations to the sandhyas and pitas in the form of their departed ancestors on the occasion of the Shraddha. Text 44. Then Lord Brahma, by his ability to be hidden from vision, created the Siddhas and Vidyadharas and gave them that wonderful form of his known as Antardhana. The text 45. One day, Brahma, the creator of the living entity, beheld his own reflection in the water and admiring himself, he evolved Kim Purushas as well as Kinnaras out of that reflection. Text 46. The Kim Purushas and Kinnaras took possession of that shadowy form left by Brahma. That is why they and their spouses sing his praises by recounting his exploits at every daybreak. Text 47. Once Brahma lay down with his body stretched at full length, he was very concerned that the work of creation had not proceeded apace, and in sullen mood he gave up that body too. Text 48. Oh dear Vidura, The hair that dropped from that body transformed into snakes, and even while the body crawled along with its hand and feet contracted, there sprang from it ferocious serpents and nagas with their hood expanded. Text 49. One day Brahma, the self-born, the first living creature, felt as if the object of his life had been accomplished. At that time he evolved from his mind the Manus who promoted the welfare activities of the universe. Text 50. The self possessed creator gave them his own human form. On seeing the Manus, those who had been created earlier, the demigod, the Gandharvas, and so on, applauds Brahma, the Lord of the universe. Text 51. They prayed, O creator of the universe, we are glad. What you have produced is well done. Since ritualistic act have now been established soundly in this human form, we shall all share the sacrificial oblation. Text 52. Having equipped himself with the austere penances, adoration, mental concentration, and absorption in devotion, accompanied by dispassion, and having controlled his senses, Brahma, the self born living creature, evolved great sage as his beloved sons. Text 53. To each one of these sons, the unborn creator of the universe gave a part of his own body, which was characterized by deep meditation, mental concentration, supernatural power, austerity, adoration, and renunciation. That's the end of the chapter 23. Sorry, chapter 20, conversation between Maitreya and Vidura. Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. So we'll offer brief prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gnananjana Chakshurunmritam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitinamini Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desutarini Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. We're in the third canto, 20th chapter. Today we're ending this chapter. So essentially, in the beginning of the chapter, we heard Vidura inquiring from Maitreya Muni about how did Brahma further continue creation, how did what happened to Swayambhu Manu and his other Manus creation, like that. He was asking the question. So this was in the rest of the previous chapters, like 6-7 chapters. There is a discussion about sixth Manvantara, where Lord Varahadev killed Hiranyaksha. That past time was described. And now we are back to the first Manvantara discussion. And the next chapter will be more direct discussion of the Swayambhu Manu dynasty, next chapter onwards. So in this chapter, that's how it started. And then Maitreya Muni is explaining this to Vidura, how instead of starting at that point, Brahma creation, he went back a little bit because there was some gap previous 7 chapters. So we went back to the primary creation, what Supreme Lord does in creating the foundational elements of the universe. So then, after he summarizes the primary creation done by Supreme Lord, then he talks about the secondary creation or Visarga, which is done by Lord Brahma, which is the creation of different planetary systems within the universe and population of different living beings, like that. So while summarizing what he already described, he adds some more details in this chapter, which is not described in the previous description of Visarga, secondary creation. So that's the context where we are in. So Brahma is creating different types of living entities, like that we heard. Especially we heard some asuras came, demons came, and they were trying to attack him, and he took shelter of Supreme Lord, and then Supreme Lord guided him to give up that mentality, and that's how the description is going on. Now we'll hear the rest of the chapter, how different other living entities are being created, and what kind of mentality that they take from Lord Brahma. That is the essence of this next coming section. There are a few purports. Prabhupada is emphasizing 2-3 themes. So we'll discuss that theme also, more than the storyline of different living beings are getting created. Yeah. So now going to text number 40. Let me share my screen also so you can see the verse. Yeah, just before that, previous verse described how the Vishwabasu and other Gandharvas took possession of the body of Brahma, which is given up, that is became the form of moonlight, like that. So Gandharvas and Apsaras were created just before this verse. And we know Gandharvas are very good at music and singing, and Apsaras are very good at dancing. Now going to this 40th verse from today. Then from Brahma 40th verse, we hear that bhutas and pisachas are created, it seems. Bhutas are translated as ghosts and pisachas are translated as fiends. So then when he closed his eyes, because he saw them standing naked, it seems, with hair scattered. So that's why he closed his eyes. He didn't want to see that. In the purport, Sri Prabhupada writes that some people think, oh, does ghosts really exist? Does pisachas really exist? He is confirming. See, as part of Brahma creation, they are also existing. So it's real. It's not false. Number one. Number two, what is the one of the purpose of their creation? So that they can put the conditioned soul in different miseries. Remember, we know in material world, conditioned souls are subjected to three kinds of miseries: Adibhautik Klesha, Adhyatmik Klesha, and Adidevic Klesha. Adibhautik Klesha means the miseries caused by one's other living entities, and Adhyatmik Klesha means miseries caused by my own body and my own mind, and Adidevic Klesha means miseries caused by other demigods through natural disturbances, like that. So this comes into category of Adibhautik Klesha, which is caused by other living entities. So these are also living entities, but they don't have the gross body. So that's what Prabhupada is describing the purport. And so there's a higher purpose for all these miseries. What is the higher purpose for these miseries? To remind us that we cannot be happy independently of Krishna. That means without serving Krishna, we cannot be independently happy, number one. Number two, this material world is a place of suffering. So that means it's best for us to take shelter of Krishna and look for permanent solution from these miseries. The permanent solution is to engage in devotion service towards Krishna. So these are, whenever we get suffering in our life, those should serve as reminders and impetus and motivation to take shelter of Krishna more and more through devotion service. Not that the moment we get suffering, oh my God, why did Krishna do this? I'm chanting 16 rounds. Oh, Krishna is creating trouble. I'll give up Krishna. I don't want any more bhakti. That is not the pious living entities. Don't do that. Some impious living entities, unfortunately, they go in that direction. That why there is suffering even though God is there. But then pious living entities question that suffering and then take guidance from their spiritual master, from their mentor, to understand how do we process this particular situation in my life right now with the suffering, and then how do I engage in bhakti even though I'm in so much suffering. How can I engage in devotion service to a suitable level even right now, like that? That way, with the guidance, they'll continue in bhakti, so that they can, even through the suffering, they will remain in higher consciousness of understanding the purpose of suffering and potentially get some learning through that suffering, potentially intensify our bhakti to that suffering. Now that's about 40. Going to the 41st verse. So they took the, in each of these cases, each of the living beings created by Brahma, what is the body they're taking possession of is also being described. So they took the position of yawning of Brahma. Yawning means like ha, like that we do, right? That yawning they're taking. And then, interestingly, in this verse is described that this also is called sleep, which causes drooling. That means when you're sleeping, when the drool comes out. So apparently that is considered as an unclean state. Prabhupada is describing in purport that when somebody is sleeping and they drool, that means saliva comes out from the mouth. That's an unclean state Prabhupada is describing. And at that unclean state is the opportunity for these ghosts and hobgoblins, that means bhutas and pisachas, to attack the person, it seems. And that is what causes insanity in people also is being written here. And Prabhupada emphasizes the point that unclean state is becoming the opportunity for these bhutas and pisachas to attack. So what is the lesson for us? Lesson for us is try to remain in a clean state as much as possible. That means, how do we remain in clean state? Of course, when sleeping, we don't know what is happening, right? So basically, when we are awake, when we are in conscious, that time we cultivate the qualities like cleanliness, which is from mode of goodness, sattva. So when we are in mode of goodness, when we are cultivating cleanliness, when we are awake, then naturally that will spill over to the rest of the time when we are not in our control apparently. That time, like sleeping time. So that way we need to cultivate cleanliness. So that is a one aspect we can learn. Of course, there is another aspect of this cleanliness is one of the important aspect of mode of goodness that we are cultivating. Actually, there are at least two other purports where mode of goodness is being emphasized by Srila Prabhupada in the purports. Not directly saying mode of goodness, but the characteristics of mode of goodness is emphasizing in few of the purports today. We'll hear about them. But we also know that even in the 11th canto, Krishna directly describes to Uddhava how Vedic regulations or the principles of religion, principles of devotion service are meant us to gradually elevate from the lower modes of ignorance and passion to the mode of goodness, and then finally even beyond the mode of goodness. So it's important to cultivate mode of goodness in our life. So the first aspect here described is cleanliness. Of course, there are many aspects described, but this one aspect here is cleanliness. That's one lesson we can learn from this verse. Now going to the 42nd verse now. So now Brahma then evolved from his invisible form is described. The sadhyas and pitas, it seems. Apparently, these sadhyas and pitas have invisible form of departed soul, it seems. That's what Prabhupada writes in the purport. That means they don't have a gross body like we have currently, gross material body like we have currently. And then those people, they took possession of the invisible body. In the next verse is describing. So, and then that's how they accept the offered oblations in the form of Shraddha ceremony. Like many of you might know that in Vedic culture, in Vedic tradition, in Vedic regulations, there's an importance of doing Shraddha ceremony. So Prabhupada writes, covers two themes in this purport. We'll cover both the themes. One is, what is the purpose of Shraddha? What is happening with the Shraddha? That's what he's describing, Prabhupada, first theme. We'll discuss that first. So he's discussing how every year there's a period of 15 days when Shraddha ceremonies are offered for the departed souls, our ancestors, our father, grandfathers, like that, and other ancestors. So how is it to be done ideally? Ideally, we offer the bhoga to Krishna or the Supreme Lord in one form or the other, and then that prasada is offered to the ancestors. So what Prabhupada is emphasizing that because by offering bhoga in this particular ceremony, then Supreme Lord is pleased with that offering, and Supreme Lord awards that ancestors. Some of them may not have a gross material body to enjoy sense gratification even, or to practice devotion service for that matter. So that means, because we cannot do devotion service without having a material body, especially if you're in material world here. So in material world, that is the mechanism for us to available. So that means, because Supreme Lord is pleased, he will award a gross material body to those living entities, ancestors who don't have a body yet, gross body yet, for some reason. Usually that happens when somebody is very sinful, usually. So that is the first theme Prabhupada is covering the purport. Now, interestingly, second theme Prabhupada covers in the purport is how when somebody is fully Krishna conscious, when somebody is dedicating their life completely in Krishna consciousness to serve Krishna, to please Krishna, then there is no need for performing these kind of rituals. Why? Because by doing devotional service, they're pleasing the Supreme Lord directly. And by pleasing Supreme Lord takes care of everything what we need in this life currently and what we need beyond this life in the spiritual world. So that means they don't need to do these rituals like this. That is the other theme Prabhupada is writing. To emphasize that principle, Prabhupada is explaining the example of Prahlad Maharaj. How Prahlad Maharaj, after his father Hiranyakashipu was killed, when he's in the audience of Lord Narsimhadev, he asks, "Can you please deliver my father? He offended you so much." Then Narsimhadev tells him that not only your father, but up to 14 generations, they are all delivered because of your devotional service. So Prabhupada is emphasizing that point, that if you do our devotional service very nicely, then by that service, all the rituals are automatically performed. That's how Prabhupada completes this purport. So that's an important point. So if you notice, in the first theme, Prabhupada emphasized the need for Shraddha ceremony and how that is actually the benefit is coming because of pleasing Krishna. That is clear, hopefully. Then, in the second theme, Prabhupada is emphasizing that pleasing Krishna is best done through devotion service, through bhakti. So that's why we may not need to do other rituals. So now, when do we stop? When do we know we're fully dedicated to Krishna consciousness? When do we stop doing the Shraddha ceremony? Is individual, each person comfort level and understanding and faith in Krishna and the bhakti process itself. Depending upon that, we individually take the decision. But essentially, main principle is until we are firmly situated that bhakti is the best process for me and Krishna will take care of me. Until that time, it's absolutely okay to do the Shraddha ceremony also. And of course, there are other situations where some devotees might do Shraddha ceremony for the sake of family members also. That's the 43rd verse we can learn. Basically, the essence is to please Krishna. The best way to please Krishna is through devotional service, and that is the best service we can do our family and to our ancestors also. That is the point being made. Now, going to text 44. Then, Lord Brahma, by his ability to be invisible, he created another set of living entities called Siddhas and Vidyadharas, it seems, and gave them his invisible form that is called Antardhana. So, where living entities can be perceived that they are there, but they cannot be seen with eyes, it seems. That's what is described in the purport. Only one sentence purport. That's what is described about these Vidyadharas and Siddhas. And then going to the 45th verse, Brahma, seeing his own reflection in the water, and he admired himself, he evolved Kimpurushas and Kinnaras, are the other living entities that came out from his reflection, it seems. And they took possession of the shadowy form left by Brahma. And then it's described what is their main function. Their main function is, along with their spouses, that means wives and husbands, together, they sing glorification of the Supreme Lord during the Brahma Muhurta hour, it's described. So, Prabhupada, in this short purport of 3 sentences, Prabhupada emphasizes another principle of mode of goodness, which is very essential for practicing devotees like us. What does he say? He says, time early in the morning, 1.5 hours before sunrise, is called Brahma Muhurta. And during this Brahma Muhurta time, performing spiritual activities is recommended because they will be perfectly fruitful. They'll give us the highest benefit when spiritual activities are performed in the Brahma Muhurta time. What are the spiritual activities devotees usually do? Attending Mangalarti or chanting the holy name, reading Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita, and hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. These are the activities devotees can do in Brahma Muhurta time. And then he says, spiritual activities performed early in the morning have a greater effect than in any other part of the day. Even though there are three sentences, is very, very powerful. So this is an impetus and motivation, inspiration for us to take the message again, once again inside our heart, that we should do our best to try to sleep little early in the night time so that we can get up early in the morning and benefit from this most auspicious time of Brahmurta to do our spiritual sadhana. Even from material point of view, scientists understood this particular time frame is very suitable for concentration and absorption and learning. So that's why it is very, very helpful. There's a video that Radhesham Prabhu shared some time ago. I'll send it in the group also. That talks about from the material aspects also, how it's very, very helpful to get up early in the morning before sunrise, to sleep early, especially before 10 o'clock. That video talks about that. And then that way you can have good health also and good learning and good material progress also, because you're focusing at that time. And for us, of course, the main purpose of getting up early is to utilize that time for spiritual practices. That is the other lesson from this 46th verse for us. Now going to the 47th verse, then Brahma laid down, it's described here, and then in a sullen mode, he gave up that particular body also. And then that time, from the hair that dropped from his body came snakes, and then also ferocious serpents and nagas with their hoods expanded, they all came, it seems. So if you notice, not only the human beings, so far human beings are not talked about. So far higher living entities were talked about. And then now even snakes and serpents are being talked about. They also are part of the creation of Lord Brahma. So now, in the 49th verse, there's no purport for most of these verses. Going to the 49th verse, one day Brahma felt that he accomplished the objective of his life, mission of his life. At that time, from his mind came Manus, it seems. So we are hearing already about the first Manvantara, Swayambhu Manu. That is where we stopped earlier in the 13th chapter. Now we're going to continue that Swayambhu Manu dynasty description, starting in the next chapter, 21st chapter of this canto. So then, what do? They promote the welfare activities of the universe is described. And Prabhupada writes in the next purport that the emphasis is next in couple of verses afterwards, that they are primarily promoting economic development, he says. That means, so people follow the Vedic culture to live in this material world nicely. At least that much they are doing. Of course, spiritual culture also is coming, but that is handled by sages, Prabhupada writes in the next coming purports. So following the Vedic culture, following the principles of religion, helps us to even be happy materially also in this world. That's the point we can get from here. And the 50th verse is described, the self-possessed creator Brahma gave up his own human form. That means again it's talking about mentality only, not the, because he's going to live for 100 years of his own lifetime. So when the Manus came up, Manus were created by Brahma. The previous people who were previous living entities created, like demigods, Gandharvas, they are all very happy and they applauded Brahma, it seems. The Brahma, the Lord of the universe. Why they're happy? That's described in the next verse. They prayed, "Oh Brahma, we're glad. What you have produced is well done. Since ritualistic acts have now been established soundly in this human form, we shall all share sacrificial oblations." That is the cause for their happiness. That now, because of the Manus, they will establish Vedic culture and people will do sacrifices. And because of the sacrifices, they will receive the sacrificial oblations also. That is the cause of their happiness. So Prabhupada is writing in the purport, the purpose of these sacrificial rituals is to gradually increase the consciousness, develop the consciousness of the living entities to up to spiritual realization. But the ultimate purpose of these sacrifices is to please Supreme Lord. Because unless one pleases him, one cannot be happy in material enjoyment here or in spiritual realization also. That's what Prabhupada writes in the purport, the last sentence, which is very valuable because sometimes we think spirituality is only for after this lifetime to be better. But here is emphasized that by pleasing Krishna, we can live better right now, and then we can get to the eternal spiritual life in service of Krishna also, and be happy that time also. Both are achieved through devotion service. Now going to text number 52. Now, interestingly, not only he created the different kinds of living entities, he's saying, having equipped himself with austere penance, adoration, mental concentration, and absorption in devotion, accompanied by dispassion like detachment, and having controlled his senses, these are all qualities that Brahma is exhibiting. Brahma created sages also next, it seems. So now here, the point that I was telling earlier, how Manus are helping people to evolve their consciousness for economic development currently. But the sages' purpose, creation of sages, the purpose of them is to help us in spiritual elevation, spiritual consciousness. Basically, here Prabhupada writes, uh, so why is that materially being good is important? So that we can cultivate spirituality, cultivate spiritual knowledge. But for that, is sages are helping us with the right knowledge so that we can cultivate spiritual relation like that. And then Prabhupada writes, the other forms of yoga people do, including Ashtanga yoga, is meant for controlling the mind so that they can evolve spiritually. Not that to just be happy, materially healthy. That's only not the only purpose of yoga like that. Prabhupada writing in purport. So these sages are setting the example for us to follow for spiritual realization. That's how Prabhupada concludes the purport. Going to the last verse for today, 53rd verse. So Brahma gave a part of his own body, which is characterized by these wonderful qualities: deep meditation, mental concentration, supernatural power, austerity, adoration, and renunciation. So Prabhupada emphasizes in this purport the importance of staying away from sense enjoyment, because he says spiritual realization cannot be attained by materialistic persons. If somebody is addicted for sense gratification, spiritual realization is not possible. Such a serious statement Prabhupada is writing. So that means it's a bogus propaganda that we can enjoy materially and then also progress spiritually. That's what Prabhupada is writing in the purport. So Prabhupada is emphasizing on the importance of doing austerity in our lives, starting with the four regulative principles: no meat eating, no intoxication, no gambling, no illicit sex. Starting with those, we should do austerity in our life. But what is the purpose of that austerity? To observe our mind in Supreme Lord, in Krishna consciousness. And that is the process of spiritual realization. So basically, austerity is not done to show off to others. Austerity is not done to feel, oh, see, I have the capacity to do austerity, to feel good ourselves. Austerity is done to improve our bhakti. If we, unless we do austerity in the right mood, we'll get into hard-heartedness, which is not suitable for bhakti. Bhakti is done with soft heart. So to develop that soft-heartedness with austerity, we need to do with the right mood to serve Krishna, to grow in our bhakti, to please Krishna like that. Not in the other moods like I want to show off, I want to show how great I am, not with that mode. That's the other lesson we can learn from this verse. So essentially in this chapter, we heard how Lord Brahma continued his creation of different living entities, and through that, Srila Prabhupada imparted us certain lessons of cleanliness, importance of getting up early in the morning, and utilizing the Brahma Muhurta time for our spiritual cultivation, and importance of austerity as opposed to sense gratification, how is very important for our cultivation of Krishna consciousness. Those are the few essences we got from today. We'll pause here. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Vanchakalpatarubhyasya kupasindubhyevacha Patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo namo namaha. Thank you so much, devotees, for your association. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.